to everybody after the meeting.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. April 8th, 7 p.m., Village Board meeting. Trustee Boatner?
Here.
Trustee Burson?
Here.
Trustee McElvey?
Here.
Trustee Millette?
Present.
Trustee Muncy is absent. Trustee Williams?
Here.
President Wonicky is absent, and we have Village Administrator and Attorney Forte. And we need a motion to
I make a
approve.
motion.
Trustee Millette?
I make a motion to appoint Trustee Millette as President Pro Tem of this meeting.
Second.
Okay. Trustee McElvey?
Aye.
Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Millette?
Aye.
Trustee Williams?
Aye. All right. Good evening, everybody. Rise and join me. Yes. Yeah. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. All right. Okay. We're on item number 4, public comments. Do we have any public comments?
None.
None, thank you. We're on to item 4. No public comments. All right, thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Second by Williams. Motion by Burson, second by Williams. Do you have any discussion on the consent agenda? Or the items? We really can't talk about them specifically. None? Roll call, please, clerk.
Trustee Burson? Trustee Williams?
Here.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee McElvey?
Aye.
I still get called.
You want to?
Yeah,
okay.
I get called.
Trustee Millette?
Aye.
Okay.
All right, moving on to section 6, action items. I have 6A, motion to approve ordinance 25-08, allowing for regulation of parking on certain road within the village of Campton Hills, Illinois. Illinois. Administrator, you going to take this one, or attorney's got it? All right.
This
We
ordinance
need a motion first.
Yeah, take it. So moved.
Motion from Burson, second. Second from Williams. Attorney?
This ordinance was prepared at the request of Chief Levand. This particular section of Brown Road, north of 64, let's say approximately a quarter mile, has been plagued with some parking concerns with regard to the new Squire Ale House there. Obviously, folks who park on 64, because that's a state road, there's no parking at that particular location. That is already regulated, and the state is going to be requested to add an additional sign there because it's a little bit dangerous with the speeds there. Chief Levand indicated that north of 64, some vehicles are parking half on the road, half off the road, and creating some obstructions for traffic that's coming on and off 64, just making it kind of dangerous there. So it was at his request that this ordinance be prepared, and then the township can put up no parking signs.
All right.
And the only thing I'd add is we're going to reach out to the township because they possibly could do a deal with Squire to do a valet parking at their, up the road.
Up the
either-
Anderson
yeah,
parking.
at the park or at the community garden. They have some spaces
Oh,
there.
yeah, okay.
So, but that'd be for the Squire to work out with, I think, the township.
It's a possibility. Questions from the board? Trustee Burson?
I'm sensitive to the concerns of the people living in the vicinity of Brown Road. However, I would note that the property that is now the ale house has been there for longer than virtually any of those houses. There has been some property offering food, liquor, and entertainment at that address for the 100 years, maybe more, approximately, right? And so this is not new, and anyone living in that area is no stranger to this issue. The fact that the property has been vacant for a couple of years does not change the history of the place. And I am loath to regulate parking in the village really anywhere, and in a specific instance like this, simply because there's a concern that
on occasion, there may be an event that attracts more people than the parking lot is able to hold. So I think it's awesome that the township may be offering a sort of release valve for this parking concern. I think that's great. But these are public roads, and people can park on them. And so my concern is not whether people attending an event at the Ale House are parking on Brown Road, which I believe they have the right to do, but rather whether they're parking improperly. If you are parking in a way that obstructs traffic, it doesn't really matter what road you're on. We have ordinances for that. So, or statute, really, I think it would fall under. So, I appreciate the concern, but I think we have to direct our enforcement towards whether people are parking correctly on a right-of-way rather than trying to create a parking restriction on that right-of-way because of the very recent reintroduction of the aisles. So I also add at the end that, 30 days ago, this place wasn't open. So all of a sudden, overnight, it's like this is a concern. I don't think so. This place has been here for a long, long time.
Trustee Williams?
I 1,000% agree with you on that. I think it's about time we had something. It looks like it might be successful there. After I got engaged, I took my in-laws there in like '89 to whatever it was called at the time.
Roadhouse, maybe.
I don't know, but I
Silverado,
just say
yeah.
this. I think people, once again, I'm going to, I think Nick, like, for example, I think people can park. I think people can run across North Avenue. I like the fact that the business is there. I don't want to limit he's just opened. There might be this big thing where everybody wants to go there. I want to go there. I haven't been there yet either. So I'd hate to drive over there and not have a spot to park. So I think the better option is just the village to go there and find a way of that. Maybe they can work something out with the place down the street, but I really don't want to put no parking signs on the sides of those roads because I think it's something that, people can park. They can park anywhere else, So I don't think it's a big deal, and I totally agree with Trustee Burson on that.
Trustee Boatner?
Yeah, I will chime in also. I like the idea that we're not limiting parking because then it's kind of like where can you park and where can't you park? Up and down Brown Road but the one part when I was reading this, it is concerning and potentially we should be proactive about is that it is a late night venue. People are drinking and they are going to be crossing Route 64 at a place where it is 55 miles an hour late at night. It's worth a discussion if there is anything that can be done to say, if we're going to have people crossing pedestrian traffic on Route 64 in a rural area, I think there is a light right there at Brown Road. It is dangerous.
Just for a bit more
Go ahead.
context to aid in the discussion, the description provided to me from Chief Levan was that he had safety concerns with vehicles parking along a roadway, Brown Road, with no shoulders on a steep hill, without streetlights, and close to an intersection with vehicles that often travel well in excess of the posted speed limit, up to 70 miles an hour or more at times. There are vehicles left half on the shoulder and half in the roadway, which are certainly ticketed, as he indicated. As Trustee Burson indicated, it's against state statute and certainly against village code as well. But it was his desire to be able to put up no parking signs on that 200-foot distance north of, I think it was Brown Farm Court, to aid in traffic enforcement there, just because of that. It's a dangerous intersection with the high speeds and people crossing back and forth, so.
Trustee McKelvey?
Yeah, just a quick comment. I can't disagree with everything my fellow trustees said, except that the police chief, I think we all agree with what I'll say. He doesn't take these things lightly, and he has only one issue, and that's the safety of both our citizens and citizens outside this village. And also, is there any liability? I have no idea. Leave that to the lawyers to figure out. So I think to have the discussion and say no after it's been recommended by the police chief would trouble me. So, I'm going to support this for that reason and give the chief the benefit of the doubt, because I think, although I do agree, they've only been open a short time, to be holler help. That's the part, because, usually you get a burst at the beginning and then it'll settle down. But still, I recognize his concern, and I think it's something we should honor. Thanks.
Trustee Burson again?
In reference to Trustee Boatner's concerns about safety, which I think are well-founded, the safety concerns at the intersection of Brown and 64 extend far beyond who is or isn't present at the Village Square on any given night. Safety concerns over that intersection have been brought up repeatedly, and unfortunately, this is not something that we can solve in our own discretion, as I understand it, because Route 64 is a state route, not even a county route, right? And so, creating any type of traffic regulation at that intersection, doesn't matter what you want, whether you want a stop sign, a stoplight, roundabout, whatever it is, chicanes, anything, like, we can't really do it on our own, right? So, but still, I think the safety concern is real, and I think the safety concern extends beyond the restaurant, and I would encourage us to, rather than simply try and regulate proper parking, try and approach the larger safety concern, even though it's not entirely within our discretion. We still have the opportunity to reach out to the parties for whom it is and encourage them to consider some form of regulation at this intersection. Which, by the way, we talked about people driving through this intersection at 70 miles an hour, less likely if the intersection is regulated. And for people who are concerned about people continuing into Wasco at whatever they slow down to from 70 miles an hour, also less likely if this intersection is regulated. And I don't really like traffic regulation, but I understand the safety consideration.
Anyone else? I would say one possibility, and I was actually going to call you up, Scott. One possibility, if you would, Scott. One possibility is we still have a sight triangle concern, I think, from a certain distance up from 64 regardless. And a couple of things where the parking was like right up to the shoulder of 64. So I think at a bare minimum, we need to look at some distance that's reasonable, from the intersection, just so you can have clear sight lines for other people coming in there. Yeah, there is one light there, Trustee Boatner, but it's just one light, or, so it's fairly. Yes, and it's the attorney has it up on his screen. So maybe all the way up to, 200 feet north of those cross streets, almost the Great Western Trail. No, not quite, but it's between there and the Great Western Trail. So yeah, maybe that. So, Mr. Village Engineer.
Just wanted to, it's something I'm not sure if the board is aware of, because IDOT started this several years ago, is a safety improvement project at that intersection of 64 and Brown Road. There's two locations they're working on. One is just somewhere to the east in St. Charles, and then also this intersection where they would be adding turn lanes at that intersection. That project is progressing slowly. They've been off and on that for several years now, but ultimately there would be turn lanes constructed at that intersection. It does not address the parking issue to the north on Brown Road. I just wanted to make sure that the board is aware that that project is upcoming, since it was mentioned by Trustee Burson, concerns about reaching out to other agencies. So I want to make sure that it's already in place.
Okay. Thank you for that additional information. Other comments or rebuts? All right, let's call the question, see how it goes.
Trustee Burson?
No.
Trustee Williams?
No.
Trustee Boatner?
Yes.
Trustee McAlvey?
Yes.
Trustee Millette?
I'll go yes at this time, and I would say we might need to revisit and shorten it. Let's get it set for now, and then we can back off.
It passes
from it.
3-2.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 6B, motion initiated zoning text amendment regarding provisions of maximum size of accessory structures for section 8.2, paragraph 8.3, and direct planning and zoning commission to evaluate potential revisions and conduct public hearing on the aforementioned section and paragraph of a zoning ordinance of 2024. Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion? Do I have a
So
motion?
moved.
Okay. Do I have a second? All right, motion dies for lack of a second. Then moving on to item 7. Scott, you back up? Discussion of what we're thinking about doing for our 2026 construction projects.
Yes, included in the packet tonight is a draft engineering contract for design of Campton Hills Road from Town Hall Road east to LaFox Road. The village has, we had requested a couple of years ago and have received approval that you do have KCOM funding that is approved for this project. It is, however, budgeted in the 2029 calendar year for construction. This is an opportunity to, if the board is so interested, similar to how it was done on other roads recently, advance the engineering, and if the engineering is completed, then KCOM has the ability, depending on funding availability as well, to move that construction cost funding to an earlier year. And 2026 would be the earliest year. You know, even if it didn't make that, it was 2027, because we're subject, of course, to them having the funding availability in that particular year. That's getting the funding to the village and getting those improvements done a couple of years earlier than currently budgeted. So it was discussed and has been presented at the Public Works Committee. Public Works Committee did recommend moving forward with advancing this engineering to try to get that project done sooner. So, quick summary, if there's any questions, be glad to answer them.
Any questions for Scott? Nothing? Everybody, head nods make sense to us? Okay. Thank you, Scott.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that moves on to item 8, additional items from president, trustees, or attorney, or administrator. I think you would be normally in on this too, if you got anything.
I have one thing. The Friday at 4, we have the Finance Committee is meeting to discuss the 25-26 budget. And then it'll be moved for your consideration, first time to discuss on the 15th. And I will need to kind of pull the board, not immediately right now, but tomorrow or even later tonight after you get a chance to look at your calendars, to when we would hold a special meeting somewhere from the 22nd through the 29th to pass said budget after you discuss it on the 15th. It'll be published as the base draft document after the 11th or after this Friday's meeting, and it can be modified on the 15th direction and then still have the official adopting somewhere between the 22nd and the 29th, whichever date and time works for the majority of this board.
There's no stipulation after that process on how long it has to lay over?
No, it just has to be
Normal
noticed.
48 hours.
48 hours
Yeah,
for the notice
okay.
of the meeting, but we have to publish a draft budget this Friday or Saturday to make it available for a special meeting on the 22nd through the 29th, depending on when you're most available.
Trustee McKelvey?
Yeah, the only risk, I guess, because we have to have it passed by the 30th, is if you push it to the 29th and something comes up, you have a data
Right.
to come back again. So that's the only risk. So it'd be better, I don't know, 22nd to whatever. Although I think you're going to have some conflicts, but that's what we need to figure out.
Yes,
I think the 29th would be pushing it.
I would prefer it sometime the week of the 21st, but it's your availability.
Does anybody know, Trustee Person?
I think Trustee McKelvey is correct. The meeting has to happen far enough from the 30th that you have the opportunity to schedule another meeting if you needed to. So,
Or you would continue the meeting, and if you're not,
right?
you'd just continue the meeting so you don't have a publication problem.
Well, perhaps, but I still think the 29th is cutting it close, and I'm willing to make myself available. I think probably most other board members are.
All right, so we'll just, poll the board after executive session and just tell me a date.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Matt,
That'd
I
be
was just
fine.
talking to Jim, the 25th would be an option. I know we were the two that couldn't make it, so just to throw it out there, the
I can
25th.
make the 21st and 22nd, but after that, I can only make the 25th.
And you're out that whole week, huh?
I can be here on the 25th.
On the front.
Yeah.
I think I'm gone. So who's gonna, who's gonna have a quorum?
Are either of you going to be on business? Business?
I will be till the 29th.
Because if you're on business, you can call in.
Then I could call it.
Because you can't do it from vacation. So if you're on business, you can call in. I have to work the 21st. Right now, sure. Okay. 22nd then? With
I mean, the
Nick calling
22nd
in?
works for me. That's a Tuesday, correct?
Yeah, yeah, it'd be the fourth Tuesday.
Yeah, that one works for me.
Works for me.
Okay. Tuesday, 22nd. That's the 26th. Can we, so so they're going to publish it Friday, or they're going to, something on Friday, so you would have a chance to look at it and give us, like, written comments before you left? And then if we have right, yeah, we have another meeting.
If you're here on the 15th, your
Yeah.
input will be given.
Okay, why don't we say the 22nd for now? Make sure that clears up with everything, so that's good for publishing, Madam Clerk?
You just have to come
Yes.
with the time. It could be at 6, or it can be at your convenience.
We've often done budget stuff at 6.
Yeah,
And then maybe there's food provided, maybe, just saying. Sometimes, it's happened in the past.
It might be nice to try to do it earlier if we can, because sometimes that stuff can get.
It can go long.
Crazy. So maybe even, I don't know
5?
if you can get.
I can do 5:30.
5:30?
5:30? Well, you're not going to hear. For the 22nd, 5:30 on the 22nd? Okay.
Does it make it more likely we'll get food?
I think so, yes. I think that'd make it very likely we get food. Okay, so let's publish it for 5:30 on Tuesday, the 22nd. And then, we have to open it as a hearing, right? And do
Yep.
that part first. And then testimony, all that kind of stuff, and then close and then discuss. All right. Okay? Everybody in the audience got that? It's one of those crazy things we do for rules.
We'll
And
put
then,
it-
yeah, if
we'll
we
put
have-
it on community counts and
Okay.
everything, so people will
And
be
that
aware.
gives us, if there's anything that we really have to fix, quote-unquote fix, that gives us the 29th as the fifth Tuesday, if we have to reconvene and pass something. Or, I mean, possibly could do it the Monday even. But, yeah, like you said, Mark, just could have it open so we don't close it, and then we don't have to renotice it, but everybody would know we just celebrate. Okay. Other, go ahead, Trustee Portner.
Yeah, thank you. I know we didn't have action on it, but it was item 6B regarding the size of structures. I did just want to backtrack because the planning and zoning is going to be meeting on this also tomorrow. And I just wanted to comment.
We will staff will direct them that the board didn't send it, so they won't discuss it.
Okay, they're not going to discuss it
No, I'll just
tomorrow?
tell them it wasn't moved forward to them, and so therefore, it'd be inappropriate to get into a debate if the board isn't sending it to them.
Otherwise, they'd have to notice it as their own initiative, and it would have to do the next meeting.
Yeah, right.
Which they could do. They can say, we want to take this up.
And I thought
but-
it was on their agenda to make recommendations
It is.
to the board.
It is, but it, like the administrator said, it's not entirely moot. They can still act on it on their own if they want to, but it's not on the agenda as an action of their own. Well, it's quasi, but if we make clear direction, we're not dealing with it at this point. They can decide if they want to pick it up on their own,
But it wouldn't be tomorrow night.
but it wouldn't be tomorrow night. They'd have to notice separate as a staff initiated or as a P and CZ initiated,
Okay.
right? Right? Okay. Anything else, anyone? Trustee Burson.
Relative to the same issue, I'm concerned that it appeared on our agenda at all. This is not something that originated from the board. I'm not sure where it originated from, but it did not originate from the board. So why it's on our agenda, I don't know, especially since the zoning commission and the board just considered this issue in great detail at the end of 2024. So whoever it is that wants to make this change literally months after we've gone through this long involved public process, shame on you, whoever you are. And I mean, it's really, it's really hard to believe that it's even happening, that anyone would suggest such a thing. So I really hope that it doesn't come back and that we can end this nonsense. My understanding is that this is not just a concern over the size of buildings, but over the method of their construction, what they look like, design standards, and so forth. So I don't know who wants to be the HOA Karen in Campton Hills, but that's not what our residents want. I think we've made this clear in multiple elections.
Any other comments? Trustee McKelvey?
Yeah, just a comment. The reason, I have kind of objected to it is because we have a process. The process is you discuss something and, before it becomes an action item. So when you see it on an agenda as an action item, I can't support that because it was not even a discussion on this board on it. And you've heard me say that before. I've always raised that. So if it's part of the discussion, the next meeting, if two people want to talk about it, great, then we can talk about it, put it on the agenda as a discussion. But beyond that, for an action item, I would like to have a stick with that, I only got a couple meetings left, but on the future, we should stick to that because it's always worked. Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee McKelvey. I think all four of you agree. Cool. Any other items at this time? Once, twice? Madam Clerk? Oh, I thought you were going to say something. You're getting ready
no.
you were
No.
getting ready for the roll call?
For the closed session, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I would entertain a motion to move in closed section pursuant to the Illinois Open Meetings Act, Section 2C21, to discuss minutes of executive sessions. Or the semi-annual review of minutes of the executive sessions. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Burson. Do I have a second?
Second?
I think I'm going to give that one to Trustee Boatner. Yeah, that's fair. I thought, it's fine. I know. Do I have to roll call this one?
Yep.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee McKelvey?
Aye.
Trustee Millette?
Aye.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
And for the public, we may have action pertaining to closed sessions after. That's the only thing, the minutes, that may be the only thing we're going to do. Does anybody really want to stay for that? Because if so, we have to leave the room. But if you really don't care, then we can stay in the room and you guys can enjoy the rest of your Tuesday nights. Anybody want to stay? No, I got to know. Good, except for you. I think you have to stay.